Rolling.
It's when you've got the MGM right.
Okay. Good evening, councillors,
Good evening.
town clerk, and members of the public. Christine. Welcome to this meeting of the Finance and General Purposes Committee on the, what's the date today? 16th of October, 2023. Thank you for your attendance. Item 1 is apologies for absence received.
Thank you, Chair. We have apologies from Councillor Clare and some travel commitment.
Thank you. Next is declarations of interest. To receive any declarations of disclosable pecuniary interest from members in respect of business to be transacted on the agenda. None. Okay. 3 is minutes of the Finance and General Purposes Committee. To receive the minutes of the Finance and General Purposes Committee held on the 18th of September and to consider any matters arising from those minutes not covered elsewhere in this agenda. So, do we have any matters arising to begin with?
Yeah, just a few to go through,
Yep.
Colin, if that's okay. Business continuity plan. This, interestingly, has got 3 actions registered against the same activity, so we might be able to condense them into one action, but I just wanted to check. Jill, you've got the business continuity plan. Is the intention to bring it to the November meeting rather than this meeting?
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. We had a number of actions going back to June, around the play park. But there was some sort of pressing actions within that. So one was a strategic view about engaging with DDC on what they're doing and bringing them along to talk to us about it. But also there's a need to do some safety checks, etc. And also the SLA, because it had expired. We needed to, what we said was we wanted to get that arranged as soon as possible. So I just don't know whether anything's happened on that, and if not, is there anything anybody here can do to help?
So I know that the safety checks are being undertaken. I've had that confirmed.
Right.
In terms of the way forward with the service level agreement and the play park proposal, the Dover District Council office is quite keen to meet at some point to discuss that project.
Yes.
And they'd like to progress that. So that's something I can take away and hopefully get for the next meeting. So
fantastic. That's good. There's a second action that's linked to that as well. Then moving on, there was some clarifications. So at the Heritage and Townscape Committee meeting, I volunteered to do a survey of street furniture. But there's an action sitting with this committee as well. And Jill, that was you to look at items like benches on the butts, future maintenance position. We might actually have some information around this, and also there was a funding contribution from Southern Water to clarify how we ended up at the place that some people thought was different from where we started. So I don't know, have you pulled together anything around street furniture that I can see when I do my survey or not?
So I have had some feedback from a DDC officer, but I need to put together a report, and obviously that's something I need to do for the next meeting.
So maybe, well, if I speak to you offline, in case it's something that can be subsumed into what I'm doing, but And then the final one, yes. So we did have an action last month. It was to pursue the closure of the old Sandwich Facebook page with Councillor Dan Friend. I don't know whether anything's happened on that.
Nothing further to report on that matter.
Okay. So do we intend to close that action, do you think? Is it?
I have one more attempt. Yeah.
Thank you, Colin.
Thank you. I think on that last point, I wondered if there was any possibility of any legal action that we could consider. Because as far as I'm aware, anyone can, who's an admin, can close down a Facebook page.
Yeah.
So what's the problem?
I'm not sure.
There's a few items there about the contribution from Southern Water and so on. Play area. I think we've discussed in the past about having a kind of rolling action list for items like this, and it might be better to have that on every agenda rather than it appearing in the minutes again and again.
Yeah, seems reasonable.
The other point I wanted to raise was under that item as well. You say one member abstained. I wonder if we should name the councillor is that normal practice?
So you wouldn't ask for a recorded vote normally. If the person that's abstained asks for a recorded vote, I will name them.
Otherwise,
Otherwise,
okay.
I don't. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, I don't think there was anything else on that isn't on the agenda. Any other matters arising? Okay. Are you happy to move on?
Do you want to approve them?
Approved.
Yeah.
Please.
You happy for me to?
Yeah.
Sorry, who's Councillor Franklin? Are you proposing?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Thank you.
All those in favour?
I've got to abstain, I wasn't present.
Oh, you weren't, okay. Yes, we have to welcome Councillor Black as a new member, I should have said at the beginning.
Is that acceptable with 4 only voting, Jill?
That's fine.
That's fine.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
Okay, the next item is public participation, 20-minute session, set aside for members of the public to make representations of the meeting in respect to business on the agenda. Do we have any?
No requests.
Okay. Is that good or bad?
I think it's good because it's showing how effective we are, I think.
That's a good report. Okay, item 5 is Sandwich Town Council 23-4 financial forecast. Members to consider the income and expenditure statement, the budget variance, forecast spreadsheet and report provided by the RFO detailing the forecast at 30 September 23. And then we'll come on after that to talk about the format for presenting the accounts, which is one of the items that the working group will be looking at in much greater depth. So do we have any, should we start with attachment 2A? I think if we could talk about any issues about specific figures on here to begin with.
Yeah.
Is there anything?
I've got a couple, yes, so one of them does appear on here. So I was going to ask about the Maddox Fund, because it's showing as a dividend as a credit into the STC accounts. And that's fine because it needs to be held somewhere.
Yes.
But I don't see anywhere that it's ring fenced, because I would be arguing that this should be within the trust when it's set up. It isn't to be subsumed, I don't think, unless somebody corrects me, into the general budget of the council.
No, that's correct. It will be ring fenced and it will be the charity.
It will be transferred across charity, but I agree, it is not, at the moment, it is not actually a ring fence.
No,
It's
because it
held
needs to be
in
declared.
in our ordinary bank account,
Yeah.
but it is in practice, I mean, in reality, it is ring fenced.
Yeah.
It is not, it will not be spent or used for anything
I
else.
agree with you. There are other amounts in here that are ring fenced, so is there some way that this can be identified? Because if not, it will distort some people's understanding of how healthy or not the budget is, I suppose.
Okay. Yeah, I'll take that away.
Yeah.
Talk to Karen.
Thank you.
Yeah, but I think it's in the amongst all ones for kids, isn't it?
Yes, it is. Yeah. The other comments, sorry, it is on the other. Sorry, Nick, I did have one more
Sorry,
comment.
after you.
Yeah, having looked at the STC accounts, which is a version of this, which was for up to end of August, and this is to the end of September, the market income on both is exactly the same. So I'm not sure what's happened during September in the sense of logging any of the income from the market. Might be a reason for that, but certainly we've had income.
Okay. Yeah. Check that for you.
Yeah, thank you. That's it from me.
That's great.
I may be misunderstanding the statement, but what if the council makes a large annual sum to the Guildhall account, 200 and something thousand pounds. I don't see where this appears anywhere in this statement. Should it or shouldn't it?
So it depends maybe on what time of period of the year that it happens. So
I think it has already been paid, hasn't it?
Which figure is it?
Hmm?
Which figure are you?
Well,
An income,
every year the
Yeah.
council makes a large lump sum payment. It was £100,000 plus
Yeah.
to the Guildhall account, which comes out of the precept. So this year, about 40% of the precept was paid straight out to the Guildhall account.
I think what happens as well, Cameron's explaining, when the precept comes in from Dover District, there's no drawdowns until after at least 6 months, because the precept is in the account. Is that what you're talking about, sorry, the precept?
No, I'm not.
You're talking about money
this
coming
is
from
talking about
STBF.
This is talking about income and expenditure, right, up to
30th of September.
30th of September.
Yes.
Has that payment to the Guildhall Fund been made?
Right, okay.
And if it has, should it not appear in here
Okay.
as a payment somewhere?
Okay.
But I may be misunderstanding these figures.
I think they did it at the start of the year.
Hmm?
It's not probably in the previous amount of accounts.
But it would show in here if it was, so I think it's a fair question.
Yeah.
I think it's a fair
Have to
question.
check.
Could Karen explain?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't,
Explain that, because I don't understand it.
I think that it's not treated as income is probably the true answer.
Yeah.
But I can
Probably.
certainly get that clarified
Yeah,
for you.
okay.
Yeah.
I think that's a query for me, because what we're looking at here is the 6 months to the end of September, so it's half yearly
Yes.
accounts.
Yeah, in effect, half-yearly accounts.
Half yearly accounts.
Yeah.
The income includes the full precept. So is the precept paid up front, or is it paid in instalments? But we're not comparing like with like here, because we're talking about the income to date, or for the whole year, but expenditure to date.
So that's the thing with the accounts, because the Dover District pay it all in one lump at the beginning.
At the beginning.
Other districts don't, they'll pay it in 2 instalments.
Okay.
But Dover do, it all comes in
One lump.
beginning of April in one, yeah.
Okay.
one lump.
But the other incomes are to date,
Yes, they're up to date to the 30th of September,
Yeah.
so you've got 6
and the
months.
same with the expenditure.
Mhm.
So it's a kind of slightly misleading.
Yeah, because the
Because it's all
precept
coming
comes
at
in,
once.
yeah, comes in all at once.
It doesn't come as income.
Okay. Anything else on these?
No, that's not-
2A? I think the other query, I mean, it's about the next item on how these accounts are presented.
Yeah.
But where it says refund Tollbridge Fund salaries and refund Guildhall salaries, should that not be, refund is slightly misleading, isn't it? It's more
Yeah.
of a fee. We're paying a fee. For
Yeah, I was a bit confused with that.
Yeah.
It said refund.
Okay.
But I think it's one of those issues we need to look at when we consider the way these accounts are presented.
I still remain confused about
Yeah, I do.
the payment between
I'm glad you said
and the
it.
council, even after 18 months.
Yeah.
I'm still remain confused about it.
Okay, anything else
So
on
when I
two?
talk to Karen, she always explains it, so I understand it.
Anything else on 2A?
No,
We're happy to, I think we're just being asked to receive those.
Yes.
Mhm.
Then 2B, which is the more
Tease out.
detailed accounts, which feeds into the bigger figures. Anything on there? No? You happy to receive those?
I was happy with them, yeah.
Okay. And then the next item is 2C, which is the finance officer's financial forecast for this
Yeah.
current year. And the balance that will be taken forward into next year. Item 2C, anything on this?
Go on, Nick. Go on.
I'm really not sure if I understand it.
No.
I was hoping Karen would be here this evening.
Okay,
So that we could-
okay.
But, I mean, really, I would like to talk through with her before I
think so.
say anything about it,
I
because
think this is
I
what,
just don't understand some of these figures. I mean, I don't understand, we've got a current budget and then a forecast.
Mhm.
It says forecast actuals, I'm
Yeah.
not sure what a forecast actual is.
So It's the assessment by Karen at the moment in terms
Yeah.
of where we're likely to end up at the end of it. So the actuals
Yes.
we can expect, and you're right, it is a bit of a
Yeah,
misnomer.
no, I think
Yeah.
I understand
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
But for instance, I mean, the ring fence reserves
Mhm.
are decreased by £250,000. Why is that?
So,
You probably know the answer to that.
so the ring fence reserves there, so the current budget 336, and the
Yes,
forecast actuals, which is
Yeah,
what's going to
okay.
be taken from that ring fenced, 80,000. So it means 255,000.
okay, I see, okay, I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
Yes, okay.
But the balance brought forward into this year was 448,000.
Mhm.
But going forward into next year
Yes,
is 328,000,
Yes.
so 120,000 less.
Yeah.
What's that accounted for by
mm,
Bay Hall or other things?
I think it's because of there's slightly less income than was forecast, budgeted rather. So I think that is the thing. You're going to have to look at the income and how we can generate more income. Because I think that's definitely.
yeah,
And since COVID, obviously things are a bit different. We all
Yeah.
know. But yes.
Okay. I think the other thing on this table is, which I find slightly misleading, so the variance for the expenditure
Mhm.
is an underspend of 122,000,
Mhm.
and yet the income is 205 above forecast, but it's showing as a minus in the last column here.
Yes.
So it should be a plus, surely.
No, because
No.
what she's saying is the income balance forward was 352,
Yeah.
the forecast actual 165.
mm,
So actually the variance is 196.
So in simple terms, Colin,
Yes.
if our spend is less than we anticipated, that's to our credit.
Yes.
If our income is higher than we
Then it's a
expected,
debit.
it's to our credit as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So they're
Yes.
both pluses.
Yes.
Okay.
And the salaries, as you see, they're yeah, they cancel each other out.
So a minus is a plus.
yeah.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Okay, I see.
Yeah.
Okay. So are you happy with noting 2C? Yeah. That's good. And then we were asked to just discuss the format for presenting accounts. I think this is one of the things that the working group will be looking at in much greater depth. But are there any issues now that we can kick the ball off for Karen to consider, other than what we've already discussed?
I would suggest leave it entirely to the working group, because otherwise we'll have bits and pieces, and it'll be nibbling at one piece, but perhaps not addressing some of the more complex issues. If the working group is able to go into much greater detail, which I'm assuming they will, and they'll be able to say, look, can we present it this way, and bring it back to this committee to say, are you content?
Yeah.
Because it is certainly confusing, to put it mildly.
I would thank Karen in terms of something I asked about is actually calling out the significant pieces, and she's doing that in the narrative now, and I think that's helpful.
Yes.
Definitely, we need to have the help from our financial professional in terms of what we need to look at. So I think we're a good way along that way, but I think we need more investment in that area so that we actually are confident that we're making the right decisions.
I would agree with that.
I mean, my experience of accounts in the past has been similar to 2B, I think, where there's the budget in one column, expenditure or income to date, and the variance, and then highlighting the variance, maybe in red or in blue, plus or minus 10% or more either way, so that when we're looking at these figures we can drill down into the ones that concern us.
And that's like
The big ones.
Yeah.
Either way.
Something that might have a budget of £200 is 200% overspent. We shouldn't really worry about
No,
that.
exactly.
We should look at somewhere else.
And hopefully her new software will allow her to present these in more, because it's not just for us, it's for the people of the town
Exactly.
who need to understand what's going on.
Agreed.
So we'll take that forward with the working group. Okay, thank you. The next item is item 6, Thursday market on the Guildhall Square forecourt. Town clerk to update us on progress.
Thank you. Okay. So there are now a regular number of stalls that have returned with the addition of some new stalls, which is very pleasing. The average income each week now is approximately £200, and I've had 3 further inquiries, and it's anticipated that the 3 new stall holders will be here from November, so hopefully we'll grow in a few more number. The job description for the new assets officer role, for those of you who might have seen it on Indeed, the actual job description does include for the management of the Thursday market as well in the responsibilities of that role. Just to be clear, because I think the advert doesn't list everything. It doesn't list everything that they'll be asked to do, but it's certainly in the job description, because I wasn't going to list everything in an advert.
Jill, is there any reason why the advert isn't on, unless it went on today, on the website and Facebook page for the council?
So it's going on tomorrow. I literally launched that on Indeed on Friday. I will continue to be in attendance each Thursday morning, as I have been, and I want to personally thank Councillor Suka for his support each week. I do want to arrange a meeting with the stall holders before the end of this month, and a date I hope to be agreed this week with the stall holders. Thank you.
Will that meeting be held on Wednesday after the market?
On a Thursday after the
Sorry,
market,
Thursday.
Yes, that's my intention.
Yeah,
That's my intention.
Thursday.
So just a little bit of commentary. So first of all, I think Jill's doing a sterling job, but it's a hidden cost. So I don't want people running away with themselves thinking £200 a week. Okay, that's all right, that's stable. It's a volatile environment in any case. We're just going into the winter period. We've got some new stall holders. We've also got some existing stall holders who do struggle. Some of them struggle in terms of matching income versus expenditure. The point I wanted to make was there is a hidden cost. What Jill has mentioned is the gross income, and if you took your hourly rate and deducted that from their revenue, a much lower number. And in terms of the market, the income, if you look back, and I am looking back over a period of time, it has always been very variable. So there seems to be some people who look at the market through rose-tinted glasses in terms of its incomes. That may well be true, but I think we're going back 10 years plus. But I'm doing some investigations, and I'll prove to myself what the income picture was like 2 or 3 years ago, 3 or 4 years ago, pre-COVID, obviously. But I don't think it's as fantastic as maybe we sort of sometimes think. And the important thing is about continuing to building it. We get some good new faces coming in who are enthusiastic, and let's just go the stable enough for the income from it.
If you go back long enough, you'll find it's practically closed down. There's only a couple of stalls, the garden stall, and that's when Steve Laslett then became involved.
Yeah.
And took it over and he boosted it up again. So if you look over, you'll see up and down like yo-yo.
And that's my point, Jeff. It's very variable.
I mean, I spent £25 there last week, so you know, if we could encourage everyone to promote it and get people in there.
Yeah.
Have we had any feedback from the new stall holders about whether they're happy or?
Yes. So the 2 new ones are very happy. I had a conversation with them last week, and they said everyone's been welcoming. Even though last week it was quite a grey day to start with, it did pick up later in the morning. So, and as I think Councillor Suka said, the winter will be the challenge.
I spoke to a couple of them last week. They seemed fairly positive. The cakes. And,
Well, everybody's always positive.
The butcher. And the butchers has some amazing
Yes.
stuff.
It does a brilliant trade.
Yes. That's good. Is there any, this is maybe walking before we can, or running before we can walk, but is there any potential for starting a Saturday market in the future?
That's a good question.
I've had an inquiry about that actually last week. Somebody was asking about it.
Yeah.
So that is something I think that could be considered.
For the assets officer.
Yeah, and also I think there is, you know, maybe an argument here for gazebos to be
Yes.
purchased,
Yeah.
because that would
Yeah.
really help make it uniform
Attractive.
and everybody would be in the same position, you know, having cover, and it would just add.
We did have a Saturday market and it was going quite well at one time.
Okay.
Tracy, you know,
Yes.
she was running that.
Was she?
Yeah, so she's a very handy person to keep in touch with.
I think the Saturday market, perhaps we could think about a different clientele or different demographic,
Yeah.
because it's more about visitors,
Craft.
tourists,
Yeah.
maybe looking for craft or, you know, knick-knacks or
Yeah.
souvenir type things, rather than maybe some food, farmers market type
Yeah.
stuff.
We've had them before, farmers market. We've tried a few things over the years.
Yeah,
I'm sure.
I spoke to Luke who does the thread,
Yes. Yeah.
and he does the Cliftonville Farmers Market. He
does,
said he
yeah.
would speak to some of them about if they,
Yeah.
because that's on a Sunday, I think, the last Sunday of every month,
It is,
so
yeah.
wouldn't conflict with this. But the Saturday one would conflict with Deal.
It would.
Maybe there's enough custom to go around.
Having travelled about a fair amount recently, there's a lot of markets actually only once or twice a month.
Yeah,
And to set up a weekly Saturday market, I think, is a huge ask. Start small, get a really good clientele.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of good examples
Yeah.
about the country.
But there are often tourists wandering around
There
at
are.
weekends
Yeah.
who are looking for
Something
something to
spend
do,
money
or
on.
something to look at,
Yeah.
something to buy.
Yeah.
The market might.
Something different.
Okay. Any other comments on market? Thanks to Jill for
Thank you.
and councillors for hard work. 7 is Finance and Assets Working Group. Following the meeting in September, the draft terms of reference for the working group are offered for agreement, and we need to fix a date for the first meeting. The title Finance and Assets Working Group is something I came up with. I hope you're happy with that. I think it describes what we're looking at, but I'm happy to change the title if we need to. So the terms of reference are attached. I think these broadly went to a previous meeting, so I think the town clerk has updated them and added some
That's right.
information about how the working group should operate and so on. Any comments?
A couple of comments. First of all, section 4, the quorum of F&A working group will be
Yes.
3. Is that councillors, 3 attendees?
Three councillors.
Thank you.
The councillors, yes.
And then the other question I got is in section 5, public participation. I thought the legal requirement is that you must vote to exclude the public. If you look at the third bullet point, section 5, sorry to be pedantic.
That's right. So this was actually part of what was already in some working group. I think it was in the group, sorry, I can't think of my words, in the generic. And I didn't know whether to take that out or leave it in. I'm happy to take that out if it's.
Well, it would make it consistent with everyone else, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Well, you just need to say and a resolution to that
Yeah,
effect.
that's
to be
as simple
passed
as
at the
that.
end of that point.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
6 months, the optimists.
Yes.
We can extend it if necessary.
Yeah. Just picking up on the point about quorum, so it does mention quorum of 3.
Yeah.
Fully content with that. But then elsewhere under the constitution, it says the working group consists of a minimum of 2 town councillors. Well, surely to be quorate and be able to actually hold a meeting, it needs to have a minimum of 3.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. So we're going to say 3 there.
Yes.
I think so.
So which bullet point is that?
So that's under
Our constitution.
Constitution, the
Thank
second
you.
bullet.
Yeah. 3.
Just to prove it, is it?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
We're going to take the minutes of the working group. Will it be the town clerk, the finance officer, or the assets officer, or are you going to take your own minutes?
It's possible. I think we can sit it down to when we have the first meeting of that working group, we'll make a decision on that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I think either the town clerk or the finance officer should attend
Yes,
each meeting, but
agreed.
I think one of us,
Should do it.
councillor, could
Could,
take minutes.
could do it, yeah, could do it.
And the minutes would then come to this.
Yeah.
I think, did Councillor Anderson raise some points in an email to you?
That
Did
was,
Councillor Anderson
Yes.
raise some
Yes.
points in an
Yes, she
email
did,
to you?
yes.
And are any of them relevant or should
Not-
they be taken into account?
This was relevant to the,
generic.
the terms of
Right,
reference for
okay.
the committee, so the
Yes,
next item,
yes.
the next item,
I
yeah.
didn't know whether they were.
No, no, it was for the
That's
next
fine.
item, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so are we happy to agree the terms of reference as amended?
Just for this working group.
Just for
Yes,
this
for
work
this
done?
working
Yeah.
group, yes.
Yeah.
Councillor.
Those in favour?
I think that, thank you, Jill, I think they're very
I'm a
good.
bit confused here.
We took the terms of reference just for this working group, finance and assets working group.
Yeah.
So do we have a proposer?
I'll propose it.
Seconder?
I'll second
All
that.
those in favour?
Okay.
Okay, so that's
Thank
passed.
you.
That's good. So now we need to agree a date for the
Yes.
first meeting,
Good question.
and I think that should be within the next couple of weeks, preferably.
I'm away till the 7th of November,
7th of November.
so if you could delay it until the 8th or the 9th would suit me.
Okay.
That is possible,
But
isn't it?
don't delay it if you want to meet earlier.
I think we can't meet before 4. 4 o'clock is the earliest, I think, because of Councillor Carter.
Yes.
Daniel
Yeah.
Carter.
Does this cover attachment 4? Does attachment 4?
No, that's the
that's
next
the
item.
next
That's
item.
the next item. So could we look at the 8th or 9th of November? 8th is planning committee at 6:30.
So, the mayor isn't part of the working group, is he?
No, but Danielle is.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
So what are you saying?
8th or 9th of
Yeah.
November
should be okay.
at 4 p.m.
Yeah.
That would be prior to planning committee, which I
Which
think,
day?
who's on planning committee?
Yeah. That's it.
So,
That's all.
4 p.m. on the 8th.
Okay.
On the
8th of November,
Yeah, okay.
4 p.m. 8th of November.
Mhm.
Happy with that? I mean, we're making that decision on
Yes.
behalf of 3 people who are not here.
Yeah.
Sorry, 2 who are not here. But we'll go ahead with it.
Well, it can be followed up and just check, and then
Yeah.
the other options are known.
I'll email
Yes.
the 5
Yeah.
councillors, yourself, town clerk, and so we'll stick with that meeting, and we need to find a room for that
Yes.
as well. And that will be publicised in advance, as with other
Yeah.
working groups. and
Yes.
Open to the
Yes.
public and so on.
An agenda.
Okay. So I think that first meeting is really just scoping what we want to look at. And perhaps I'll draw up an agenda. And at the first meeting, we elect a chair and then decide on any co-optees that we might want to appoint to the town clerk and the RFO. Okay, thank you. Next item is item 8, draft terms of reference for committees. So this is, the town clerk is to share proposed first draft for terms of reference for the committees for STC. Members are invited to comment and feedback. Comments will be collated and used to prepare for recommendations to council. So this is really a chance for this committee, which is charged with general administration oversight, having a first chance to look at these terms of reference. We already have terms of reference, which we worked on last year at some length, and now this is a revised version, which we can comment on, the town clerk can amend, and then we can take a fuller amended version to full council. So Councillor Black, I know, is itching to.
No, I'm not itching, but okay. Let me get my pedantry out first of all. It should be, and it says Central Town Council, it should be committees plural and then an apostrophe. Under terms of reference.
Get into the weeds then.
James, Scottish education, you know. That's the first thing. I think in all of them there is a problem with the if I read you 3.1.6 of the standing orders, which I know you've not had a chance to put on the website yet.
No.
Town councillors other than committee members may attend meetings of each committee, may participate fully in discussions, but may not vote. So there is no question about that. None of this is at the discretion of any chair. They may participate fully, and that's the key word that the Standing Orders Working Group put in. So may I ask that that be amended, every single one of them?
Okay.
So that's the first items. I think other items as they come up.
So which one are we looking at the moment? Now we're looking at the STC one, or the F&G?
F&GP.
Okay, so F&GP, so I have got some comments.
Yeah.
So one of the items I think that's missing is managing of the financial risk register. I'd like that to be called out in there. And my personal suggestion, but to be agreed or not, is that we should actually review that on a quarterly basis in the committee. So that could be a bullet that emphasises that point. Also, it mentions application for grants and donations, and I was struggling to understand in which circumstances the committee might award any money.
So currently, you're correct, there isn't any capacity, but I don't know if that's something that's proposed in the future. Certainly, I thought with the Maddox Fund, I don't know if that's the intention in the future, but certainly if it's nothing that's likely to be happening, before Christmas, then we can take that part.
I prefer to take it out and it can be revisited, And then the final one is that okay? Yeah. There's a bullet, sorry, I'd have to dig through where it is. There's a bullet on and it talks about responding to consultations. And I wasn't entirely clear what it actually means, and that was my inability to understand what it was trying to tell me.
Are we talking about the Heritage and Tasker Committee?
No, this is F&GP.
Oh, F&GP, sorry.
Consultations, if you can find that word in there. But we won't find it now. It's going to be in here, isn't it? There's a lot of words. Have you found it?
I haven't found it, but I know what the intention is. If there was any consultations that fall outside of planning, for instance, and there wasn't time, if the council doesn't meet monthly but meets quarterly, it's something that the Finance and General Purposes Committee could do in place of the council if the council delegated that to the committee.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's what that's in there for.
Okay. I'll accept that.
Okay.
And whilst we move on, I'll try and find the word and just make sure that ties in. Thank you.
As we've started in the detail, a couple of points. Again, in the standing orders, we had a table that I think Councillor Breen dropped, which is the numbers in each committee. We need to amend that slightly. It's a minor technical point that needs to be amended. And then I had the issue of when meetings, it says the town clerk or nominating officer will keep a record of meetings, circulate minutes to the chair and committee members in 7 days under normal circumstances. Minutes shall be made publicly available on the town council website, a hard copy in the Guildhall. Is that the draft minutes or is that the agreed minutes?
So I'm talking about the agreed minutes there.
Right.
So the draft minutes can actually be on the website as well. Once I get to having improved capacity, that's my intention. But at the moment, I'm struggling to keep up with actually posting the signed minutes. But that's where we need to get to. We need to get to the draft minutes being available on the website and being available in the Guildhall in a file. So if somebody comes in, a resident or somebody from the community comes into the reception and said, I'd like to see the file with the minutes in, we'll be able to hand those to that person. They'll be able to look through the minutes of every meeting that's happening in this year. But then obviously we'll keep the files of the previous years, but that's normally what people will ask to come in and see the file of what's happened this current year.
Well, that would be absolutely excellent progress, and I'd welcome that.
Mhm.
I do think, though, in the terms of reference, you might perhaps need to specify when it's draft minutes and when it's agreed minutes.
Okay, yeah.
Again, sorry about the pedantry. I think that's all just at the moment. There will be others later.
Okay.
Unless you want me to raise them now.
I think, I mean, looking at this, I think, should we go through each committee in turn? Because I've got some issues about the heritage, the finance and general purposes,
Mhm.
others might have.
Yeah.
So, any comments, first of all, about the finance and general purposes committee, which we haven't done?
I was a little bit surprised to see 32 items.
Mm.
And a lot of them are managed. Again, I'm new to this committee, so please excuse me if I'm covering old ground. It strikes me, though, that this committee's job is to oversee, supervise and give direction. But the management of a lot of this, I would have thought, is the responsibility of the professional staff at the council. If you've discussed this earlier, I apologise. But 32 items is a heck of a lot of items.
Mhm.
I think there is an imbalance between the two because heritage only has 5 items.
Yes.
For example, overseeing the budget for tourism and events, I think should sit with heritage and townscape, even though finance has the overall responsibility for monitoring the budget, but the actual dealing with it and spending the money, I think should come under heritage.
Yes, I agree on that point as well. And I think Councillor Anderson raised that point,
Yes.
didn't she?
Yes.
She did.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
Anything else on finance and general purposes? I think the other point I would make is above this, what's in the existing terms of reference, it says at the very outset what cannot be delegated to a committee or to an officer, i.e. overall responsibility for setting the budget, for appointing the chief executive, town clerk, or dismissing the town clerk, or although there's a list of things which only the council can do, and I think we have to be explicit about that before we then go on to talk about the committees. The committees have a clear role in terms of looking at the detail, oversight, but ultimately it's the full council that has to make the decision. So that perhaps needs to be at the outset.
I think as well, if there is the progression where you want to have less STC councils, that's where it's really key to look at the delegation to committees and maybe even delegation to officers. And I think that at the moment is why there is so much in some of these committees, because there isn't really very much delegated to officers. So I take Councillor Black's point that it does seem very heavy, but if you decide that you will delegate more to officers, then that can reduce some of them.
So we could treat this as sort of work in progress that perhaps needs to be reviewed, by the chair of FGP, the 6-monthly intervals or something like that.
I mean, maybe the 32 items could be condensed and some of them could be put together, so you end up with perhaps 15.
May I make one last point, that all the terms of reference are actually slightly different, and I accept that the main items, the main focus needs to be different, but it does seem as if they've got 3 different or 4 different pieces of work have been stitched together, and I'm not sure why we need that. You'd have thought that one template fits all.
So that was my intention, to deliver this in a more tidy fashion. It is the first draft.
Okay.
But I got to 8 p.m. in the evening when the agenda had to go out. I just
You
simply
got
ran out of
cross-eyed.
time. I simply ran out of time. So
Same.
apologies. It should have been more polished than this, but it is the first draft, and I didn't want to delay another meeting.
No.
I wanted to bring this to members for feedback, because obviously, if I go to a lot of time to polish something that isn't actually what you want, then that also is.
No, it's a sterling effort. There's no question about that. There's a sterling effort, Jill. But if at some stage we could have more of a template.
The other point I wanted to raise is having 10 on finance and 9 on I think they should be, I know we've done it because of this special situation with Council Black, but I think it should be 9 for both.
Okay.
Because having 10 and a quorum of 5, and then 9 and a quorum of 5, I think there's an imbalance there. It should be 9 for both.
Okay.
Because it also suggests that one committee is more important than another, which isn't the case.
So one really technical, niggly one, changes the terms of reference. You say this constitution may be amended with the support of at least 2/3 of the current membership of committee and with the approval of the town council. Well, surely the town council have got the power to change the terms of reference, even if 2/3 of the current membership don't agree. So should it be, so that,
So
that's not quite right.
what I mean to say is that if there were 2/3 of this committee said they wanted to change the terms of reference, they would then have to go to council.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's, but the, the initial request would come from the
Yeah,
committee
okay. But
and
the
then
town-
go to
Okay, but the
council.
town council could change it if they want to.
Yes,
Without
yes,
2/3.
yes,
Yeah,
yes.
okay, as long as
Yeah.
that's clear.
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't think committees can set their own terms of reference. Okay, and is that everything on finance and general purposes? Anything on heritage and townscape?
Yeah, I wanted to bring up item 3, but I don't know what I dropped it as well.
Other than what we've raised already about events and tourism.
Yeah.
Okay, you happy with that? Anything on
I think so, yeah.
human resources committee?
I just reading item 3 at the moment.
Just hold in.
Yeah.
Human resources you're happy with?
Yeah,
I mean, we
so-
clearly need a human
We
do.
resources
Yeah.
committee. And this committee will report direct to council or to,
Human Resources Committee, I was proposing it goes to council,
Yes.
but if you prefer it to go to Finance and General Purposes Committee, that's absolutely fine.
I think it's doubling up on the work though, wouldn't it? What would just go to the full council?
Yeah, I would agree.
One point, you say the committee shall consist of up to 6 councillors. It could consist of 2 councillors?
No, I meant minimum of 3.
Okay.
Yes.
So just
Yes.
understand.
Yes, the
Yeah.
quorum is 3. isn't it?
Yes, yes.
you don't want to repeat,
Minimum of 6.
you don't want to repeat history.
No,
Okay.
minimum of 3, yeah.
On the basis that that committee isn't up and running at the moment, how will it, and I suppose it's similar for, possibly for others, other bodies, but this particular committee, how will it be formed? Where will it be a full council meeting?
Yes.
Any idea around forming who should be on it?
So I think obviously there has been a
Chairs.
personnel subgroup
Yeah.
Yeah.
when the chairs of committees
Yeah.
have a mayor. So then that would leave potentially 2
Two.
further
Yes.
positions.
Right.
And maybe that's something that can be debated at council.
It
But I
should be.
think,
It should be, rather than
Yeah.
decide before.
Yeah.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are you happy that the mayor should then take the lead role in terms of line management effectively?
I think so.
Okay. And then we've got, so happy with HR? Yeah. Then we've got the appeals committee, so 5 councillors, with a quorum of 3, dealing with all appeals for staffing matters. That's a normal arrangement.
it is, yes. And
Yes.
this is if there is a grievance or let's
Yeah.
hope there isn't. But if there is that situation,
Yeah.
it's important that you have the terms of reference agreed for that situation.
And that would be within the staff handbook to make it clear that that route is available to staff.
So would, sorry,
That's okay.
would, so, a situation occurs, it would normally go to the HR committee first of all for discussion. Then the individual, if it's about an individual, then would have a right of appeal and they go to the appeals committee. That's fine, I understand that, that hierarchy. But what I would be concerned about is that the majority on the appeals committee were also on the HR committee, but that isn't explicit in this. So it says about 1, and that's fine. It would be a minimum of 1. I can appreciate appreciate the linkage,
Yes.
but it therefore leaves it open, but it could be all from the HR committee, which I think we should make sure.
I don't think
Yeah.
it should be so,
Yeah.
no.
Yeah, impartial, independent.
So there needs to be a statement about that, that's
Yeah.
possibly no more than one from the HR committee, for example,
Well, you've actually
or
got
none,
two.
or none.
No, you've actually got two, because you've got the mayor
Yeah, yes.
and one other person. If you've got a quorum of three,
Yes, you're close.
it's beginning to look a little bit
Imbalance.
imbalanced, or for genuine independence.
Mhm.
I've no objection to one person, but who that person should be, because that they can bring continuity. This is what happened, this is the discussion that was held, and that's important. But I think the majority should be non-HR committee,
Yes.
otherwise you're not
Yeah.
genuinely
You're
independent.
right, and I think if the
Yeah,
chair,
it must
yeah.
be,
if the chair of the
It
HR
it
committee,
must be seen to be independent
Yeah.
of the
Correct.
if
HR
the mayor
committee.
is the chair of the HR committee,
I think
then
there should be an explicit statement saying that only what maximum of one member of the HR
Yeah, I'd be
committee.
happy with that.
Yeah,
Because then if the quorum is three,
yeah,
they're in a minority on any.
And
Because
I-
if they've made decisions on HR matters that they go to appeal, they can't hear that.
and I think it should be considered that that person isn't the mayor, because if they've chaired,
yes,
Yes,
Yeah.
that's a good point.
yeah.
does that seem reasonable, Jeff?
Oh yeah, it's already involved in the first discussion, you've got something completely different from the second discussion.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully this committee won't meet very
Well,
often.
hopefully not.
Hopefully every
Hopefully not.
5 years perhaps, but who knows?
Have you jumped number three, or
It
number
doesn't
four
mean
now?
it must
Sorry?
be-
Have you jumped number three, Heritage and Townscape, you were doing number four?
We did heritage, yeah.
Oh, I was to speak on that.
Oh, right, sorry. I did say, did any other comments on that?
No, yeah, we haven't had a Monkswell committee, it's all being set up to restart. But I think it's a committee, it's not a subcommittee, it reports directly to the town council, otherwise you're duplicating it. It's like when we do the Maddox, when the Maddox working group becomes the Maddox Management Committee, if they want to recommend to the full town council, that go to the full town council once a month. They won't recommend to the HR or this committee. So I think the Monkswell is a committee, it's got its own budget, it's got its own income, it doesn't cost a penny from the town council. So that should be a committee on its own, doing recommendations to the full town council. It's not a subcommittee of the Heritage and Townscape.
Any views on that?
Because there's no need to ignore heritage, you're doubling it up, aren't you? And if you have to have a meeting of the Monkswell before the Heritage and Townscape, and then it's going to be repeated at the Heritage and Townscape, isn't it? And if you're on both committees, or it's staff time as well. It seems to me doubling up. We don't need to. We need a committee does a recommendation to the full town council, yay or nay, and then it's done. And a bit like the Maddox, when that's done up, that'll do the same. It'll be a full committee.
I think that,
It's not a subcommittee.
I think the danger is we had 9 or 10 committees, and then we reviewed the committees last year and went down to 3, and now we're in danger of going.
Yes, but this is the
creeping
town
back
council
up.
committee is as such. It's not, I don't even know the history, I'm going to be a bit brief. Pfizer's bought a load of land over the other side to expand their site about 25 years ago. They got the bit they wanted to put buildings on. They did a load of flood protection, which is called the Monk's Way, that road that goes up, so they can completely isolate their side from flooding. They had a spare bit of land on the left-hand side, and it became called the Pfizer Monk's Wall Nature Reserve. So Pfizer's poured a lot of money into that and had their own committee, setting it all up, financing it. It's all funded from, what do you call it? No, it's funded from the Environment Agency. They got a lot of the Environment Agency and DEPRA, Department of Environment Agency. So it's all funded. So not a penny comes out of this committee. When Pfizer's pulled out, they donated that land to the town council. The committee carried on that structure at the time. The mayor was the chair. I mean, I was chair for 12 years.
Yeah.
But it's a separate committee, so it runs itself. So they have meetings, I don't know, quarterly, I think, meetings, and they just report back. It's got their own budget, and you can see they've got a lot of money at the moment, which they've got from DEPRA and the Environment Agency. And then they've got a meeting soon. But it doesn't really concern us, you know what I mean? We just read their reports.
So it reports to the council for noting.
Yeah,
It's not really any
basically.
decisions going to council.
Unless they want to spend money, they get the money out of their balance.
In the budget, yeah.
Yeah, because our finance office looks after the ring fence.
I thought technically it's a charity.
not the Monkswell.
No.
Maxwell's not, I thought
No.
in the discussions that we'd
No,
had.
it's owned by STC. Gazen is a charity.
Okay,
Gaines
still
is
a
charity.
charity.
But I thought it was a charity more akin to, the Maddox and so on.
It's STC land which we manage.
Okay, thank you for the correction.
The
That's
walls.
fine.
So we've got, they want to do a scrape that comes the other week, and they want to get bulldozers there,
Yeah,
don't they?
yeah, and
So just went to the full town council.
So my question was about what is the role of the town council in relation to the Monkswell committee? So in terms of governance, it's what are we as a council responsible for doing? You say a report comes.
It's our land, isn't it?
Yeah,
Well, we
yeah,
own the
but
land.
we've had some examples over the last few months where actually have come to request money to do the scrape that you just referred to. So it's more than just reporting in. So there is a governance activity, and we've taken those decisions at the town council meetings.
Yeah.
What would, if it was to report into a committee, what is the added value of doing that in terms of governance is my question. That's where I take it from a purist perspective. What is the governance step that would be achievable by having it as a committee level?
Can't see any. Just another talking shop, isn't it? Waste of time to me.
I'm going to say it would depend as well on how much you're going to delegate to that committee,
Yeah.
because with a committee they can have delegated
It could.
authority.
Because
So
Yeah,
that
they
is
haven't,
maybe a
have they? They
conversation.
haven't got delegated authority.
No, at the moment, but it's something that could be considered. But that would be for council to agree.
Yeah. And at the moment, that Monkswell reporting into the town council in its broadest sense, where is its current governance touch point? Is it the town council?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have we agreed
The
membership?
town council, yes.
Yeah, I think so.
For Monkswell, yes.
We do.
We have a membership and we have
Yes.
terms of reference,
Yeah.
and it's called a subcommittee.
Well, it wasn't called a subcommittee. That's why I just suddenly thought, where did the subcommittee come from? Because I asked for the committee to be reformed. I didn't ask for a subcommittee to be reformed. Because there was been a lot of trouble. Been a lot of bad feeling generated over this. I had to do a lot of placating in the last few months. To
So,
get it
but
reformed.
in the sense
Because it was scrapped. The committee was
Yeah.
scrapped. The people from Pfizer were up in the air. There's some of them have been on there since the start. What's happening? What about them? And I said we can form the committee on the Monkswell. And I think that was the agreement. The Monkswell committee, not a sub, would be reformed.
So we don't need to get too animated about it today, do we?
No.
My suggestion would be for the town clerk just to take it away to reflect on this, and then to take it to the town council where it currently reports
Yeah.
into, just to make sure that we're content as a council that
Yeah.
its reporting in point is the town council. But just for that, let's not get hung up about whether something's called a committee or subcommittee.
No, but I say those Pfizer's people were really, really upset because it was done away with as a committee.
But what's their role in it now? They don't own it or
No, but
oversee
they are.
it?
They're also members of the Sandwich Bay Bird Observatory. They're naturalists. They go down there with the wardies, part of it
Okay.
also.
So it's all the bird observatory people. Ken
What,
and
that part is it? Packages, but it's the Bird Observatory, Sandwich Town Council based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, can we ask the town clerk to come back
Yes.
and give a report?
Yeah.
I mean, I've no objection really to it being a committee.
It just has to be good decision making
As long as
without
they're-
repetitive.
Yeah, that's what I think. It's just
Yeah.
repetitive.
As long as they set their budget and they
Yeah.
stick to their budget and
Yeah.
just report back to the council on what they're
Yeah.
achieving or
But there is
requiring.
a bit more than that, Colin,
Yeah.
of course.
Yeah, they used to get a report after their meetings. You get the report back from their meetings. So all their minutes used to come back to the town council.
So can I just clarify, is the warden counted as an employee of the town council?
He isn't directly employed, but he is a contractor, because he
Okay.
is
He's a
paid.
contractor,
Yes,
He's a
yes,
contractor.
yes.
And he's paid out the DECRA money and the other money.
And he's paid for out of their own funds.
Out of their own
So
funds.
it doesn't cost the
Because they
council.
lease the fields for the farmer as well, cattle and everything.
So part of the governance should be an annual review of his
Mm.
performance, if you
Yes.
like,
Yeah.
to say,
Yeah.
is we're happy with it, the way it's
Yeah.
going and
Right.
Just think save us time,
reappointed.
just let, you know, otherwise we're doubling it up. And our staff time.
Okay, so you're okay with that, councillor Frank?
Yeah, I am, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Shall we move on then? We've done HR. Next one is planning and highways. We've done appeals, planning and highways.
Planning and highways, that come up from the other one, didn't it? The planning is just always been planning, isn't it?
Yes.
And now they want to tack highways onto it as well, because they have got delegated powers planning, haven't they?
We do
For
get
planning, but not for highways.
we do get lots of information on
We do.
highways.
It's
Yeah,
a bit more than that, to be honest. So,
yeah, it is.
having done stuff and I'm slightly concerned, Jeff, in the sense that the planning committee would suddenly get a really big suitcase,
I know.
which is the highway improvement plan.
You're talking about 20 years on, aren't you? That we're
Yeah.
going to do district planning things, isn't it? It's-
So the highway improvement plan needs quite a bit of work on it. And I don't think today the planning committee is necessarily focused in that sort of strategic thinking. And if he wants to open up to that, that's fine. But I think we just need to be careful to make sure it's the right.
I think we just keep planning as planning at the moment.
Yeah.
But then, if you're going to open it up, you might want other council with more experience. That's what I'm saying. Bigger committee.
Yeah, that's a really
committee.
good point. So I think the mix in the planning committee isn't the right mix if you're going to
Yeah.
start looking at the highway improvement plan.
Yeah.
So I think the highway improvement plan and highways in the broader sense, the planning committee might be the right place for it.
Yeah.
But if you were just to pass it across, I think it wouldn't get.
Yeah.
So I'm not really giving you an answer, Jill.
No, that's fine, that's fine.
But I think just dropping it in somewhere else, but I can't think of a natural home. I think it has got synergy with planning,
Yeah.
but it's not just well, there you are,
No.
do it.
I think this is an issue that we've discussed in the past about the remit of the planning committee. Because at the moment the planning committee is basically a purely reactive body. All it's doing is
Yes.
looking at applications that are made. It's
Yeah.
not
Not
directing
future.
planning.
No.
The local plan discussion all went to full council. So I think there should be a role for the planning committee to take a broader view of planning, looking in detail at planning policy and local plans and so on, and making recommendations to the full council. I was up the high street the other day and I'm thinking, this town, the traffic situation is crazy in this town. But how do we address this as a town council? We have very little power or influence. But 50 years from now, they'll look back and think, how did they allow all these
We've actually also car, no petrol.
trusses and everything else to come through? So it is something that we, as a council, should be taking a proactive view of, and the planning committee should really be the starting point for that, I think. So perhaps the terms of reference should be amended to say that, because at the moment all we do is respond to planning applications and be told what's happening.
So Jill, do you have a view into how do we? Because there is a big piece of work here around the highway improvement plan, and we have to do it properly, in my opinion, because it seems to have fallen into disrepute.
So if it's not going to move to planning, it will stay with council, because I think that the heritage and townscape, certainly after a conversation with Councillor Anderson, it's not something that they have capacity for.
No,
There is a
no.
lot of other projects and things.
Yeah.
So I think then if it's not going to planning, it should stay with council. And then we're back to the point we made earlier. If we're going to look at reducing the number of STC meetings, that means there has to be more delegation to committees. So I think it's a big problem to get over.
It is.
And I think maybe there is potential for co-option on planning committee, that maybe we could go into the community and maybe there might be people out there with traffic expertise and but I think that's a question really for council as well, isn't it? And maybe your working group.
I agree that the thrust of this should be about delegation, and perhaps at one planning meeting we should have an item, the new vision for Sandwich type of forward thinking.
1975, Jill's got it. I had it in the clerk earlier.
The old vision for Sandwich.
I've worked on this over the years.
Looking at, I think that as the highways and transportation is such a critical thing, the way it affects planning decisions as well, I would think it needs to be included. You have a short-term problem, the highways improvement plan. you could actually get a small working party and be very specific about people you manage to co-opt onto that and also put on it. It doesn't need to be the full committee, and get them to specifically, because they're going to have to do a lot of talking to understand what they can and cannot do. That's the first point I would make. The second point, and this again is the pedant in me, the committee shall, looking at membership, consist of 9 members. Don't you mean 9 town councillors?
Yes,
May I suggest you're specific?
yes.
And then there is no other kind of person there apart from any co-optees who are invited on.
Because at the moment we have designated co-optees, the tree warden,
Yes,
the
town
town
The
team,
History Society.
the history society, yeah.
Yes, yeah, a bit more.
So are we saying that the specific people will be agreed each year at the May meeting, or?
I think I'm just trying to clarify that there are only 2 groups of people, town councillors and co-optees.
So, just go, I don't want to lose sight of the highway improvement plan because it does need an amount of work on it. So, Jill, I would suggest that maybe we need at a council meeting, might not be the next one, but certainly maybe like the one after. We need to form a piece of work around this, and then I think it possibly does go across the planning committee in a fit state, Jeff, rather than where it is today, and then it does expand that particular committee. Picking up on Colin's point about delegating downwards, because the planning committee at the moment does just focus on what's on the table, and if there's nothing on the table, then it's out the door very quickly. So I think there's capacity there, Jeff.
Yeah.
But by the time we get to next year's review of membership, then we might want to change some of the members on the planning committee or whatever. But I did have one specific point on this planning committee. It does say about calling out planning applications. There has been some noise around whether the town council can call in.
Yeah.
So for me it's very clear here, which is we speak to a DDC councillor who is willing on our behalf to call in a planning application. Am I right in the understanding of what this is saying?
Yes, so in all essence, the town council cannot call it in,
No?
but the town council can request a district councillor to call in on behalf of the town council.
Yeah, that's absolutely right, yeah.
That's why we got the barn up the Ash Road, because it didn't get called in.
The barn? Oh,
Yeah, the Ash Road.
Or the agricultural building?
Yeah, the officers passed it.
So as long as that's clear, because there was some confusion a few months back
Yeah, there was,
about we are not able to call in, but when I looked at the video of the meeting, I'm sure it was along the lines of we need to take it to DDC to ask them to call in on
That's
our
correct.
behalf.
Yeah.
Okay, so you happy with planning committee?
One last point, sorry. Under your heading meetings, which is after roles and relationship, then you've got meetings. Is this of all committees, or is it just this one that's being singled out? Because I don't think that text is in any other group.
It should be in all of them.
That's my impression, thank you.
Yes, it will be.
It will be, yeah. I mean, again, I appreciate you can go cross-eyed looking at these things.
Okay, so that's planning. The next item is delegations, paragraph 8. Any comments on this?
Just to say that I think this can be expanded. This was just the sort of foundation to aid discussion and debate.
I think that's what kind of the town clerk attends meetings on our behalf, isn't it? So,
The existing terms of reference talk about sums of money, you know, up to £2,000, that kind of thing. Do you want to include that in here, or?
Yes, I think that would be a really good idea. And what I was going to request is that the sums of money are increased because things like if there's anything in the Guildhall that needs attention,
Urgently.
a sum of £2,000 isn't very much these days, and I think that's something that
Yeah, I
should be
think-
reviewed, because it means that there are less reports coming to council for the day-to-day management, and it's certainly something when we hopefully have the new assets officer, that's something I want to sit down with them and do a report to go into lots of more
I
detail.
mean, this is for items that are not in the existing budget,
Yes.
so
Yeah.
extraordinary
Well, that
items,
certainly should go in. Yeah.
so that should be clear. No, I think the overall thrust should be about more delegation to officers,
Yeah, to the officers.
subject to that being then reported back
Exactly.
to the next
Exactly.
meeting,
Yeah.
so that we can keep an eye on it. Anything else on delegations? You happy with that?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think what would be good, Jill, is if you amended these as per the discussion today,
Yes.
and maybe then circulated them to all councillors
Yeah.
before the next meeting. Are you planning to take this to the next meeting or to the November meeting?
I don't know if that's optimistic. If you think I should wait until the November meeting,
I think so.
Yeah, I
okay,
think so.
that's
I
fine.
So
think
it gives you
probably-
time, you
Yeah.
can circulate it, give
I don't think a time otherwise.
give maybe a week or two for people
Yes.
to comment, and then hopefully when it comes to the full council, you'll have another and ready
Yeah.
set of terms of reference.
Okay, thank
Well,
you.
A lot of work has gone into it, Jill, and if I've sounded, if I'm carping, please, it isn't. But we need to get it right, and
Absolutely.
I think there's a lot of very good stuff in here.
Thank you very
There
much.
is.
But look at the existing ones as well, the thing about what cannot be delegated, because that historically, we had an issue about things being delegated and it caused a lot of problems, so we need to be explicit about what cannot be delegated.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a lot of expenditure that's done that we didn't know anything about, and it's like,
Exactly.
oh, cool,
Yeah.
where's that come from?
So,
All the new chairs, which are horrible.
the full council is responsible for the big
Yeah.
issues, the big decisions. Okay, thank you for that. Next one is item 9, priorities for the Finance and General Purposes Committee, that's attachment 5. This has come to council before, to this committee before, and I've asked Jill just to really update it with progress on each of the agreed priorities, so that the finance officer has put some flesh on this in terms of the new finance system, presentation of accounts and so on. So any comments on this? Are you happy with this as it stands?
Yeah.
So this will, I think, needs to come to each meeting, just so that we can keep a rolling
Yeah.
review on it.
Might I ask, some items are in italic and some in normal script. Any particular reason, or are the italic ones still early stages?
These, I think, were the ones that this committee added to the original
Okay.
list.
Yes.
Yeah, you happy with that?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's, decision required is to note,
Yes, please.
all in favour?
Yeah.
Seconder, proposed seconder,
Thank you.
you seconder, all in favour?
Yeah.
Yes, so we
Thank you.
excellent.
Abstaining or favouring?
Item 10 is confidential matters under the Public Bodies Mission to Meetings Act 1960, extended by Section 100 of the Local Government Act 1972. The public may be excluded from the meeting for the following items of business on the grounds that they involve the likely disclosure of exempt information as defined in Part 1 of Schedule 12A of the Local Government Act 1972 by virtue of the paragraph specified against the item. And the item is information relating to a particular employee or a particular office holder under the authority. And we need a proposer for the,
I'll propose
is
it.
that the seconder? Councillor Gray, all those in favour? So we are making a resolution to exclude the public and to deal with this as a confidential item.